It was April 15th, 1963, and James Dean Walker and a friend of his, Russell Freeman Cumpy, were out and about in Little Rock with two women, Mary Louise Roberts and Linda Ford. They went from club to club until they end up at the South Main Businessmen's Club. Walker and Compy get into a fight with a guy in there. Walker then shoots and injures a bystander to the fight. It was around midnight and they all take off. Walker and Compy go to their hotel to pick up their stuff and hightail it out of Little Rock. They called the women to meet them at the hotel. So the women show up in a cab and the men force Ford to go with them in their white Oldsmobile so she can show them the quickest way out of Dodge. Roberts is worried and tells the cab driver. The cab driver calls his dispatcher and tells him what's going on. Then the cab driver is told to follow the Oldsmobile until cops can catch up. Man, it was different times. He does, and another cab driver also joins in the following. Two North Little Rock officers, Barentine and Vaughn, were ordered to intercept and pursue the Oldsmobile. So Barentine sees them first and follows, waiting on backup since the men were armed. They get the Oldsmobile stopped on the England Highway a little outside city limits, and Barentine parks behind the Oldsmobile. Vaughn pulls up into the center of the road. The cabs show up and pull off to the side of the highway as well. So the cops order Compy out of the car and they search him. Vaughn approached the car to speak to Walker. The door flies open and a shot is fired. Vaughn backs away, a gun drawn. There's a shootout. Compy breaks away and runs into a ditch. They call for more backup. They find Vaughn dead of a gunshot wound to the chest. Walker's hit 5 times but survives. Now, Ford said Walker fired that first shot and started all that. When police came up on Vaughn, the .38 Smith & Wesson that fired the round that killed Vaughn was near his hand. An officer kicked it away for obvious officer safety reasons. But at his second trial, and we'll get into that, he would say Barentine killed his coworker with a magic ricochet bullet off the bumper, and he never fired any shots at all. He claims he came out of the car with the pistol in his hand and doesn't blame the cops at all for beginning to shoot at him. This time, prosecutors would say it wasn't Barentine that fired, but Vaughn, as he was dying, shot Walker, hitting him 5 times. So Walker was convicted at his first trial and he's sentenced to death. However, the judge allowed some irrelevant and prejudicial evidence in, so there was a second trial. The state's evidence at the second trial was contradictory. The judge had an attitude toward Walker, and there were other issues. He's convicted again, however, and sentenced to life. So Walker goes off to an Arkansas prison, and over time he becomes a trustee. He's very well behaved in prison, and he becomes involved with the church. He's invited several times to speak at churches all over Arkansas. He's allowed to do that accompanied by guards. After about a year, they start letting him do it on his own furlough, no guards. He does that for about a year when one day he just doesn't come back. He's escaped, and he stayed out of sight for about 4 years until he was arrested on drug charges in Nevada. Now, Arkansas says, hold him, we're coming to pick him up. It wasn't that easy, though, because Walker would fight extradition, saying that they would find a reason to shoot and kill him if he was returned to Arkansas. He felt threatened by the newest warden there, who would refer to him as a cop-killing SOB and said he would bury him in the prison yard. He was eventually returned to Arkansas, though. Then there's another appeal. Thorough review of the trial evidence would show that the gun in James Dean Walker's hand was fully loaded when it was recovered, and that no ballistics examination had actually been performed on the bullet that killed Officer Vaughn. So how could they have matched up the Smith & Wesson bullet to the gun that killed Vaughn? Yeah, good question. None. Eyewitnesses at the scene had not been called to testify. Then they found a diary entry made by Crumpy, who said in that entry that he was actually the one who fired the first shot, It was, in fact, his Smith & Wesson that the officers kicked away, not the gun that was actually found in Walker's hand. The diary entry and a transcript of the conversation between Crump and his sister, well, the prosecutors had them and didn't hand those over to the defense. So, after the appellate court thoroughly reviewed all of the material they had, they sent the case back for trial number 3. The state appealed that all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, where they were denied. In the end, instead of going to trial number 3, the state offered to release him if he just pleaded guilty on a lesser charge of manslaughter, given that he was party to the whole incident. He spent 23 years in prison. He ended up dying in 2023 at age 82, a free man, not quite exonerated, but not a cold-blooded cop killer either. Thanks very much to a judge and a clerk who were willing to review every page and every item of evidence in his case. Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying these videos and want more, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any videos. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate it.